you have to trust in the people that you have relationships with. Like the most valuable lesson I've learned, the person on that other end, your boss in all of your examples here, if you have a good relationship with that person, they want you to find purpose in your life. They want you to be happy. I promise you. I mean, wouldn't you as a hiring manager want someone who's been there and done that to be recruiting for your role? So we just thought it really made sense. Be exactly who you believe you should be. But even more importantly than that, because that's so hard to know early on, at least it was for me. You don't have to be what you are currently. People evolve, people transform.
Today, I am joined by Bram Cohen on Business Unscripted. Thank you, Bram, for being here. Bram is the co-founder and partner of Search Key LLC and senior associate head of talent acquisition at Davison Low in Atlanta. How are you doing, Bram?
Yes. Doing great. I really appreciate you having me on.
I'm excited to talk to you. So can we just start? Tell me a little bit about Davison Low, what your role is there, and what you do.
Sure. So Davison Low is a fractional CFO firm, and we function as the internal finance team for our clients. So everything from just basic accounting through the financial planning, FP&A, budgeting, measuring, what actually happens versus what we've forecasted, et cetera, to high level decisions, transactional things such as any due diligence for fundraising, M&A, buy and sell side if that comes up. We also can assist there. So we effectively function as the internal finance team for our clients. I have also, over the last, year or so, also taken the lead on helping our team grow internally, assisting with their recruiting, or actually basically leading their recruiting, assisting with trying to determine how to restructure our engagements and structure the team, and also help our companies grow as well when our projects are typically 3 to 5 years in length, and we hope to offer some of them, and we already offer some of them, the ability to use us to recruit for them internally, so that when we phase out, we can recruit, hire, and train them so that they'll be in good hands when we're not as involved as we generally are on our projects. So that's Davison Low. But through that experience, I ended up with a partner founding Search Key.
Well, very exciting. So very similar to my background. So I'm very excited to talk to you and ask some questions about that process of getting to that decision, because you majored in accounting in college, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I did, yeah. And you've been on that track now for a good, 10 or so years. Is that right?
Yeah, probably closer to 12 now. It's a little wild to think about that, but yeah, it's interesting. A little bit of background, and you asked me about who I was and how that fit into Davison Low, but it's funny that you ask about the kind of longevity in this world, because I view myself as kind of a creative round peg sledgehammered into a square finance hole. This was not, was not my dream path. And I think that when I was in college and I began to consider, what I was going to do, I was really looking around me, because I was kind of that lost soul, not really knowing exactly what I wanted to do. And when I thought I was actually charting a kind of individual course, thinking oh, I see a lot of people going into business. Well, let me try accounting. I didn't have any clear vision in mind at that point, or any goals. So I was actually just kind of, I was basically riding this wave, and then over this 10-year period, I'm on this wave, and then you feel it starting to come down and crash, and it really forces you to soul search, to decide I've been on this path. I guess in the beginning I thought, well, this isn't me yet, but if I just, gave it a good go, I will form into this ideal, figure in this world. And it just wasn't natural for me, and I wasn't as happy as I knew I could be. So it really forced me to do some of that soul searching. And, that's when I realized that okay, what do I love about what do I love about, being a professional? Well, I really love the social aspects of it. I love helping people. I love like talking about the work. But when it came to like actually doing that work, I was pretty good at it, but I didn't love it. So, I just wasn't as happy, and it didn't seem as purposeful as I would like my work to be. So that's when I really decided, that I needed to change. And, that's why I'm now, with a partner have launched Search Key. So that's kind of like a very condensed version of how I got from A to B.
Yeah, that's
the thought process.
That's real exciting. So having been through a similar process myself, I've got a bunch of questions. Got my outline in front of me. So I'm curious. So the conversations, I guess at some point you realized this is something I want to do, right? And then you've got your support system, your wife, your family, you're hiring, the person that hired you, your boss. So I'm sure, that's a lot of people to convince, and, you've been on this path, you're a CPA. So how did you bring this idea up? And then I'm curious, what were the initial reactions, or, kind of just anything about that process? I'm really curious.
Sure. Yeah. Well, my wife was crucial, not only integral, but like just, we talk about each other's kind of situations all the time and give them gut checks, so to speak, to make sure that we're both satisfied in what we're doing. And, she could tell that this world just wasn't for me, and that the work was kind of wearing on me a bit. Look, we all go through difficult periods of work, but she knew that there were layers beyond that I may not. I mean, like you said, when you've done something for so long, when you've been on a path for so long, and you start to think about other possibilities, your ego is going into protection mode. It is like kind of fear mongering a little bit, because it's like, these are your skills, right? This is what you know. You like compare yourself to other people in these other kind of areas where you think you might excel in, and they've been doing it, their whole career. So like that is a crazy comparison. But it's all in effort to kind of like scare you from actually making that move. So my wife was really just like, here's what you're going to do. She literally said this. She was like, you don't know what you want to do yet, but you just got to start networking. You got to start talking to people. Talk to people that do things that pique your curiosity. And because I would not arrive there on my own. I know I wouldn't have. I was just kind of stuck in that train of thought that like, this is what I know how to do. You've got your CPA. You worked hard to get that. You've really like, even though it was unnatural for you, you've risen in the ranks. Like, what else can you do? And she really opened my eyes that, just by networking and talking to people, that there are other options. And then that led me, Brian, to you. You were actually one of the first calls that I've had. It's been a long time now, but it feels, we feel like we've known each other for so long, but it hasn't been too long. We talked, and you basically were just like outlining kind of your lifestyle and your career and what it looks like, and how valuable it's been to your personal life and career, and all the aspects that really aligned with what I was looking for. And then I was like, what? I had that thought in my head, and I think I brought it up to you. I was like, I might want to consider this. And and at that point you just said like, no, this is what you really encouraged me and convinced me that's what I needed to do. And I already know that it's the best decision I made, without a doubt. Like she can my wife can tell the change in my demeanor. Like it's evident. Like I already feel better. It's like a weight has been lifted.
What?
And that's no, like, I just want to make it clear that's just me not being in the place that I need to be. It has nothing to do with the industry that I was in. Like, I wish I was more natural. It would have been a lot more comfortable for me up to this point. So I just want to clarify that it's just like that. It just wasn't for me.
No, I think that's a good answer. And I think we run into that a lot in recruiting. Is just, finding where someone would perform at their best and be the happiest, and then getting people to be open to maybe a candidate that might not have been in their lane for the last 10 or 12 years, but who would be amazing. So yeah, there's so many fun elements to this job, and you have to use every aspect of your brain, really. And so, it's exciting to see your development, and starting from nothing to launching the business and taking this new path. And so, big fan over here. So
appreciate it.
I'm curious here. So Davison Low. So I think how you navigated this situation was amazing. So how did you? That's a very scary conversation to have, to go to your boss and be like, "Hey, I think I want to do something completely different and leave here." All right. But you turned it into, a transition type role. Just talk to me about that, because most candidates you speak to, if they're not happy, they haven't talked to their manager, they haven't explored what other opportunities are there. And you not only have done that, you're a poster, board for success here.
Yeah, it's interesting. I share that fear that every one of you have in telling the person that has, especially if that person's been a mentor, right? And especially if you're on like a very close knit team where your absence, it's only huge because, like, for example, my firm at that point in time was only 4 people, and the two of us, like my main partner and I, with another partner who's kind of more of a specialist, and he was across clients, but the primary partner, the like managing partner of the firm, and I kind of ran those engagements. And I was petrified at the thought of even telling him, because I knew that, like, wow, I would put them in a really dire situation if I didn't, if I just abandoned ship. So I was really scared to have that conversation. But you have to trust in the people that you have relationships with. Like, the most valuable lesson I've learned is that those relationships, like the person on that other end, your boss in all of your examples here, if you have a good relationship with that person, they want you to find purpose in your life. They want you to be happy. I promise you, if they're good people. So the minute I told him that, the minute I gave him my intention to want to do something completely different and possibly go off on my own and start a recruiting firm, which ended up happening, he didn't think about like the loss, or he didn't think about, he like processed it pretty quickly, but he didn't think like, oh my God, where, like, you're abandoning us. Where do we go from here?
You're dead to me.
Yeah, you're dead to me. No, he immediately said, like, he immediately thought, like, all right, something isn't working here. And that may have been slightly true because we did have a lot of work, but the truth is, like, I was always, like I mentioned in the beginning of this podcast, I felt like I was meant to do something else anyway. And that was kind of a little bit of a driving force behind it. But it forced us to reimagine the way that the firm works and structure our engagements, and even approach clients for offering kind of like a new aspect of our services, which is now recruiting. When he then tasked me immediately, he was like, okay, that's great. I want you to be happy. I want you to fulfill your purpose, or whatever that may be. But let's give this a test. If you can hire people to fill your role, it ended up being multiple roles. He was like, that will prove whether or not, you are cut out for this world. And I ended up doing it, and it was a great experience. And, it was like, that was my first go at it. He was the hiring manager in a sense. I had to do the entire process, like, scope people out, write up like a decent amount of notes on all the candidates, and like kind of do some filtering. And like, it was a great experience. And it was validating as well. Like, and he even said, like, at the end of it, he was like, you know what, I think these were his quotes. So if he's listening, I'm going to give him a direct quote. He's like, you have been an agent of change. And at that moment, I knew that this is what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Like, I was confident at that moment that I could go off and do this.
I love that. And I think that's what we are as recruiters, are agents of change. Something's just, they're not finding the people they need. So they need fresh ideas or fresh perspective, or maybe a fresh candidate with a different skill set. But I was going to say something you touched on that was just great, but you de-risked this process. So like, I thought just the communication, talking to everyone, I think you're an excellent communicator. And so I think that led to not only, this new path and achieving your dreams, but you've been able to do this without ruining, or, you didn't just tell them, peace out, I'm gone. You transitioned so well, and you brought capabilities to your firm. So it's just a great story. So
thank you.
Tell me a little bit about Search Key LLC, and then your partner. We haven't talked a whole lot about your partner, so I'm curious, how did that come about? And tell me a little bit about what y'all are focusing on at the moment.
Mm-hmm. So the origin of the company, after talking with you, having several conversations with you, I started to think about like how it was going to work, and I started to then tell people this is what I'm going to be focusing on. And when he's one of my best friends from college, and when I approached him with my intention and goals, I could just see something happen within him. It's just like, he just felt like he plateaued in his career. So different story. It wasn't that he didn't feel like he belonged where he was. It was more of like, and this is, I'm sure a lot of you out there feel this way, like he just felt like he is plateauing. So he was just, he was such a risk averse person that it took watching me take a leap for him to say like, all right, you know what, I want to do this too. I'm ready for this. So I think I encouraged him by just telling him my intention. And we started this company. So we are recruiting in two verticals. I'm handling finance and accounting roles, and pretty much across the industry, like all industries and financial services, et cetera. And he has more of a management consulting background, strategic consulting background. So like pretty much any operational aspect of a business, he's going to be recruiting for those jobs.
Very exciting. So we were talking about values, or I sent you some thoughts earlier about values, and I'm curious too. So just what values do we share? What values do you and your new partner share? And are some of those shared values what led us to our new entrepreneurial efforts? So what do you think when it comes to values? What are important to you?
Yeah, the value. It's funny. Like sometimes you start a company and then decide what the values are, but our value, like you mentioned, our values are built into the fiber of the company because we're here. Like we talked about it. Honesty, I'm sure, is a popular value, but people define it in different ways, or people use different definitions within the broadly defined term of honesty. And ours was being honest with ourselves. And we are here because we were ignoring that aspect of ourselves. What is going to give us purpose? What do we want to do? We want to be helping people. We want to specifically be helping people that have been in our exact situation, unsatisfied or unfulfilled or plateaued in your career. Well, we want to help those people find the right career. And luckily, we didn't start out as recruiters. We have deep industry experience. We know the jobs we're recruiting you for. We can tell you about the culture. We can tell you about if we know who the people are in the companies and how they operate, we can tell you about the dynamics. Wouldn't you as a hiring manager want someone who's been there and done that to be recruiting for your role? So we just thought it really made sense. And it took a lot of honesty with ourselves, or it took a lot of honesty to get to arrive at that point. And then the other value, the other major value personally for us to get here was that we feel like we listen well. And by that I mean I'm saying we had to listen to our true inner selves to be able to be honest with ourselves. And listening is a huge part of being a recruiter. You have to really, really focus and hone in on what both sides want, candidates and clients, to really make the good match, which leads to the final value, I think, is connection. And without our deep industry experience, knowing the dynamics of these roles, knowing the cultures that I talked about, how can you fully be as transparent as you need to be and create that true link that is so important, the link between candidate and client, to be able to find a good match and place people in the right role.
Yeah, those are great answers. And yeah, I wish I could provide that insight coming from, having a CPA or whatnot. But yeah, I picked up a lot. Just
it's definitely not necessary. Sorry,
yeah,
it just positions us well. Yeah,
but no, I wish I could. Wish I had that to convey that to candidates. But definitely, the just the values and where I was before, and connecting people. But yeah, it's such a fulfilling industry and role, what we do in recruiting. So tell me, so having been through this process, I'm curious. So what advice are you going to give, your kids or your niece or nephew or neighborhood friend that comes to you and they're a junior high school or just starting their career, having been, down a zigzag path?
Yeah. My advice is it's twofold, I think. I would say, be exactly who you believe you should be. It's very easy to be influenced by our communities and conform to visions or models that we might create in our minds. But I would really encourage, my kids, future kids, to be who they feel they are. But even more importantly than that, because that's so hard to know early on, at least it was for me. You don't have to be what you are currently. People evolve, people transform. I think it's that we get stuck in these impressions of ourselves as who are we now? What are we doing now? Does that define us? And it doesn't have to. I mean, I've evolved in so many ways, over the decades. And it's taken me a while to go through this career transformation, but it's possible. And I would say that's even more important because we don't always know who we are, and we could be different versions of ourselves throughout the ages. So, be flexible.
That's a great answer. I think if I look back on my life, if I found myself depressed, it's I'm identifying with whatever my current station in life at that moment is.
Yeah.
Well, Bram, where can people find you? How should they get a hold of you going forward?
So our website is the first place, is searchkeypartners.com.
Okay.
Our LinkedIn page is SearchKey LLC, and my personal LinkedIn page, Bram Cohen.
Bram, thanks so much for being a guest, and wish you all the best of luck going forward. Excited to see what you accomplish.
You as well, Brian. Thank you so much for having me.